Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sabrina Sense Podcast, where I bring common sense to the world of work. Today, I'll be speaking with Joanne Groves, and Joanne is a movement expert. She's been in the fitness community for about 30 years now, and she truly helps individuals to find their natural movement style and then to build momentum so that she's helping them to stay active and fit for as long as possible. Good morning, Joanne. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Likewise. I'm so excited that you're here. So, I just kind of want to get into this and start asking you a few questions to let our audience know who you are, what it is you do, and why you do it. So, what is it exactly that you do in your career, Joanne? And how did you get started?
Okay, well, I'll try and do the short sort of version.
Mhm.
Currently, I kind of went from receptionist on a gym floor uh, into group exercise, personal training, studio coordinator, club manager, and then about 15 years ago had an injury and I moved into education because I realized many of the things that I had been told, there's so much conflicting information
Yeah.
around fitness, and a lot of what I'd been told wasn't helping me. And so I sort of went on this big self-discovery journey with faster health and fitness. And at one point, I hated them because it changed everything, and I had to go and learn to read research. But ultimately, it was amazing. And so, if anybody out there does feel like they get confused with conflicting information, there is a place you can go, and that's come and see me, because with some simple tools, you get to be able to read the research yourself, and that gives you that confidence in everything you do. But that's
Absolutely.
kind of not how my career started. I'll be honest, I wanted to be an actress from a little girl. I I was actually my husband's. This is very sweet. He gave me yesterday a little USB thing for my phone that has our wedding video in, and
Oh,
I haven't seen the video for a long time, so it was quite emotional because my
yeah.
dad's no longer with us. A lot of people are no longer with us, and I heard my dad do um, the speech, and he said that he remembered going to see me in one of my first shows. And I thought I was a rabbit, but apparently I was a swan. But I was age 4 and I wouldn't get off the stage. And from that moment, I was like, oh, I like this audience business thing.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be an actress. And I went to drama school and I worked professionally as an actress, but I still needed enough to pay the rent. And that's why I started in a gym as a receptionist, because I thought I could earn some money.
Ah,
But
so
as
that's where
time
the
went
gym comes
on,
in.
yeah, and but as time went on, I actually realized that I was falling in love with the fitness industry. And it was tough being an actress, but I do remember after my son was born, I had an acting job. And then I just thought, no, actually, I'm really interested in helping other people move more. I think with my body going through such a dramatic
Yeah.
change as well, through having my first son. So yes, so that's how I kind of got to getting into the fitness industry. And then of course the injury was another side of it,
Right.
because I
Recovery.
realized, yeah, I'm helping people move in group exercise, and that was great. But I realized I wanted to do more.
That makes sense. How long have you been working in the fitness industry now?
So I've been in the industry for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
I know, I know.
Incredible.
I don't look it, I know.
No, you really don't.
um, no, it is a long time. And I remember when I first started, and whenever you start in an industry, you're kind of going, oh gosh, I've only been in this, a year, 2 years. Will people
Yeah.
give me a job? And now I'm like, oh, should I should I actually say I've been doing this for 30 years? I remember when you used to put the little plastic shoes you put on when you go into a swimming pool now, but then we used to do them and put them on and do slide.
Yeah.
I think about 4 years ago, I saw somebody promoting this slide saying this, it was new. I'm like, no, no, we were doing that 30 years ago. So you see all the trends come in and come back round again for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It's funny. It operates in stages like that, or I should say every 10 years you see a flashback moment. So, I mean, last year it was all about the 90s. So I wonder what next year is going to be. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I love that with the fitness industry. And I think I have got, if anybody might notice, I've got a slight brain that's like a dog that goes squirrel, and I'm off. And for me, the fitness industry was great because I could be doing body step one moment and then could go off and do combat, or I could, and I love that. And for me, I think personal training is always it's this moment where you meet this wonderful person and then you're unraveling what it is they want to achieve. And it's never the first thing they say. So you have to go through this whole, you have to be like a detective and find out what they love, what inspires them, what would make them never want to come back again, all of those sorts of things. And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, and now, okay, I'm now going to break this puzzle down even further and think what would be the right exercise for this person at the right time, and how can I make that more inspirational, and what are the right amount of reps and sets, and you're really creating this experience. And if you can get that right and you can connect emotionally with that person, you know they can't wait to come back and train again, and that's really lovely. And I love being able to give other trainers that craft as well. So they feel confident about every exercise they deliver. They
Yeah.
know why they've hit a certain intensity, why they've matched that biomechanics to that movement to help that client with that skill.
It's just incredible as you're talking about how you get to create these experiences, you're lighting up more and more. So I can genuinely see that it is truly a passion of yours. I love to see that. Have you been working on any new projects lately that you're excited about?
I have, yes. So I run this course called Motor Skill Application Specialist. And the great thing about this course is that every time you do it, something's changed because it's always to the clients, the students that are with me. So it's
Yeah.
not like textbook, you do this, you do that. There are certain elements like that. But the students are able to bring problems that they have every day with their clients, and we help solve them. So we go to the research and look at the best way of helping that client, because my opinion is of no importance. But what we do is try and work out what is the balance of the best evidence out there. So I just help them with the
I
tools on
see.
that. But we've just brought out some new modules to go with it that I'm super excited about. And one of those modules is how we use the motor skill process to help those that are going through what I would call the climacteric period. Many people call them menopause, but it's just not enough, because the menopause, although is celebrated by 12 months of not having a period consecutively, and our ovaries no longer functioning, which to
Yeah.
some women can be incredibly traumatic, that
Right.
and it's sort of, in a way, it's not enough saying menopause, because we've got premenopause, we've got perimenopause, we've got menopause, and then we've got postmenopause. And my mum's had fluctuating symptoms.
Yeah.
And that's because at this time, what's happening, and it can be anything from 40 to 50 before we go through that 12-month race period.
Right.
Um, and also you can have your medical menopause. So if you've had any issues with your ovaries, hysterectomy,
Throws
cancer,
everything off. Yep.
you will go into menopause early. And I've got a student that's happened to. So she's going through it for a second time. First time round, she said it was extremely physical. So for her, it was the vasomotor symptoms, hot flushes, all of those things.
Yeah.
Whereas second time round, it was much more psychological. So she suffered with
I see.
anxiety, brain fog, extreme mood swings, and that's very, very hard.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I love about the motor skill application specialist course is that I'm a personal trainer.
Hmm.
Most of my students are personal trainers, which means that half of the trainers I see on like TikTok or social media are all now calling themselves menopause experts,
Oh no.
the food expert, or eat your way out of menopause. And let's just say, if you think that your eating and your exercise is going to combat the ratio change of your hormones, you've got another thing coming. So
Yeah.
watch out for those that call themselves the expert, and those that refer to, well, in my clinical experience,
Yeah.
or well, this worked for me, because unfortunately that's a low level of research. And I
Absolutely.
believe that as women, we're not victims. We get to demand a higher level of research. And I think that's
Yes.
really important, because if the research isn't there, that is a great mission to get on. 8% of
Absolutely.
research that's done on females or girls is not enough, but it doesn't mean that we get to make up the gaps. And so, what
Exactly.
I love about motor skill, we stay within our lane. And for me, thank you very much. I don't have to worry about whether you're on hormone therapy. I know that your diet's not going to change it. Otherwise, we would have puberty coming at lots of different times. And it, within reason,
Yeah.
that's not going to be. But what we do know is the version of you, Sabrina, that is moving more, not smoking, and has a good diet of those reduced, highly processed foods. We know that that version of you is going to be the best vehicle to be able to cope with whatever is coming at you through that climacteric period.
Yeah.
And that's what we have robust research to say, the best version of you. But you can't compare Sabrina to Joanne, because that's unique. And for some people, menopause can be a breeze. And for other people, I'd like to swear now, it can be
Hell.
an absolute exorcist. It
Yeah.
can be horrific, horrific, horrific. Um, but just a little bit about motor skill, actually, because my passion is creating movement experiences.
Hmm.
And ultimately, what I would say that the climacteric period is, it's a hurdle. It's a challenge that some of us will find tricky. Now, other people may have different challenges in their lives, things that have happened in their upbringing, or different illnesses, whether you've lost a parent. These are all hurdles. And what I love about using the faster process is we get to come back to who the client is, what they like, what they don't like, and then building an experience that helps inspire them to move more. And
Yes.
once we start to understand that, you know, if we have I call it, everything is about story, basically. And we're constantly thinking about what the temperature's like, how does somebody else respond to us. We've got all this information is going on the whole time. And
Yeah.
when our clients come to us, they're telling us what they want. And as they're telling us, something they might say might just make them suddenly go, ugh. And that's like, they might be talking, saying, "Oh yeah, I want to lose weight. Yeah, 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 I want to lose weight." Blah, 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 blah. And I might be saying, "Well, why do you want to lose weight? Blah, 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 blah. Have you ever been happy with your weight?" No. And at that moment, they go, "I didn't know until just now what I've now discovered."
Yeah.
And it might be, it could be that, their partner's in a separate room, or is no longer coming home on time, little things like that. But whatever it is, the moment that they're talking and they have that visceral change, and it can just be the tongue goes to the back of the mouth, or
Yeah.
they pull away, or they start to speed up, or whatever it is. But this is an emotion. So what's happened is those triggers have suddenly gone, something's important, and you get
Yeah.
this moment. And at that point, you get a hormonal change because they're wicked, these hormones. They come in at any moment. So you get
Oh
the
my
hormone
gosh, yeah.
change, you get the muscle contraction, and this can be at the same time. And from this trigger, this emotion happens, and then you've got 6 seconds. And in those 6 seconds, debatable, might be slightly less, slightly more, but within those 6 seconds, your brain has to decide what action it's going to take. And this is the exciting part because the brain is going, whoa, and it has to go through a checkpoint of things.
Yeah.
And it can go, have I experienced this before? What did my mum say her climacteric period was like? Or the classic one, my mum had a bad back because she told me about it all the time. This is now stored as a memory. Is this an opportunity? Is this a threat? And it's going
Yes.
on all these things. And then we take an action. And the action is the thing that reinforces whether that feeling was an opportunity. Yay, I got the sandwich. Or, run, freeze, fright, or flight, get out of
Yes.
here. And the feelings that you get then produce, I say these feelings become a litter of feelings and they become the experience. And as trainers, we're gifted to being able to help someone navigate the action and take an action that reinforces something that's more positive. So rather than creating anxiety or
Right.
constantly, because anxiety is a feeling, pain is a feeling, fatigue is a feeling. And if you're feeling like you've got brain fog and your cognition is going, and a trainer doesn't hear that, and they give you tasks that you fail, they're taking away your self-efficacy. Whereas by hearing that cognition is part of something that's concerning you, they can very, very simply create tasks that you can achieve, games that require memory, but you're able to do them.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we're now building an experience that is based on the person's goals, that helps them with their self-efficacy. And sure, some people need to move more cardiovascularly, some people need to strength train. I don't think there's a false dichotomy. I hear a
Yeah.
lot of, you're women, you should be doing more strength training. And I'm like, do you know what? If someone has just got into the gym and started enjoying doing a spin class, don't start making them feel bad, or if they've gone for a walk, don't make them feel bad, because by going for a walk, they're moving, they're exercising. And then it's little bit, what can we add on? But we only add on when we want to go, because no deadlift, one press up, you know, one squat has ever changed a life. It's
Right.
consistency.
Yeah.
And that comes from connection. And that comes from, trusting yourself and knowing that you're safe with the person you're training with. And I've just gone off on one there because I got quite excited. So you have to forgive me.
No, that's not a problem at all. I love to see it when you light up because you're so passionate and you get so animated. So I love it. I love it.
I will say on that, and while I'm on that, because I did do a talk this week, and one of the topics were why some people use generic exercises. I don't know if you've heard this. They
I
might say,
haven't.
oh, well, my clients just come to me and they just want weight loss. So I give them generic exercises such as a squat or a deadlift or a row. And the thing that gets me about this, and this is why I run motor skill application, is because when we're learning to walk, what we're doing is we're honing our motor skills.
Right.
And we get to mum or dad, whoever it is, through that inspiration of wanting to be able to get there. And as we do, we start to go from crawling to tripping. We fall a lot. But as
Yeah.
we do that, we start to get from one foot to the other because we've got this goal, this destination. And as we do that, we get to enhance our coordination, so those the sequencing of what we're doing, but also at the right power output.
Yeah.
And my example of a power output is if I was to lift up my phone, but I did it with the wrong power, I would hit my head. Okay, so we don't want that. And that's what a small child is learning, that coordination of the sequencing and the right power output. But the reason I mention that is that anything you do can't be generic, because by the mere nature of you doing it means it's specific.
Right.
Because the research behind motor learning is you either have the skill to do the thing
Or you
or
don't.
you're developing the skill to do the thing. And
Yeah.
so by giving someone a squat or a lunge or a deadlift, you are specifically getting them better at those things. And while for some people that may be on a weight loss journey, that might be a great choice of exercise because you've seen that they can squat. However, I've got clients that have come in, they've walked in, but because they've been sedentary, they haven't been practicing those motor skills.
Oh, no.
So to them, if they try and sit, they don't have the skill to be able to do that. And here's the kicker: if you haven't got the skill to do something, your brain has to protect you. Homeostasis, it has to make sure that you have enough energy to do the thing that it's not done before. So
Right.
if you imagine a big hill, if you've never climbed it before, it's going to feel worse than it actually is, because your brain goes, not sure how steep this hill is. I'm going to make you think it's way steeper than it is so that it conserves and holds back that energy. So I would like to see more trainers going, this is my client. They walked in, they can walk really well. That's their performance. I now get to load their performance. And if they do that, it means that I can be working on weight loss straight away, while a trainer that's trying to use an exercise claiming that it's generic when it's not, they're actually on skill development. So they're not actually doing the very thing that the clients asked for. And I
Right.
will say very quickly that unfortunately, moving exercise isn't a great way of going about weight loss. I wish it was, but it isn't. It is a great way if you've lost weight to maintain
Mm-hmm.
that weight loss. And it is a great way of maintaining and gaining more muscle mass.
Yeah.
It's also a fabulous way of improving longevity, improving health, improving your wellness, and your whole mood. So, for those reasons, it's phenomenal, which is why, as trainers, we need to work hard at making it meet the person that walks through that door. Work through the door, walk through the door.
Yes. So, is there anything that somebody has mentioned walking through the door that is how do I say it? Is there anything that they ask that you would want to debunk?
Oh, so yes. But here's the thing, I guess there's a lot of mixed information out there.
Hmm.
And sometimes what happens at Faster, we call this chicken shoes.
Chicken shoes.
Chicken shoes, yes. So, and we help our trainers to understand that. And that is if a client comes in and says, I like to know the best stretches for my running, or I would like to know the best exercises to strengthen my core. It's like walking in with chickens on my feet and me saying, Sabrina, I'd like you to show me how to walk with my chickens on my feet. You might be thinking, chickens on your feet, probably not the best thing, Joe. They're much nicer on a barbecue with some sauce. Eat your chickens. But I would be thinking, well, that's crazy, Sabrina, because they're on my feet and they're keeping my feet warm. But
Mhm.
I've come in with the solution to the problem. And my husband's actually in IT, and he says he gets this all the time. He gets a company wanting a the solution, but they haven't worked out what the real problem is.
Yeah.
And so if anybody says, and this is why you have to be careful of research as well, because I've got in some debates around foam rolling, and people have said, well, look at this research. It says, the best stretch or foam rolling for an IT band. And it's like, well, you've got a bias in the question. And so actually what we should be looking at, let's go back to say, how do I improve my running? Rather than saying, what's the best stretch or foam roll
Yeah.
for my running? The question really needs to be, how do I run faster in a 5K? Or how do I, accelerate at a greater pace? The moment I say, how does an espresso or prosecco influence my running? It is going to tell me how an espresso and prosecco improve my running. But that's not actually the answer that we want. So yes, clients do come in with a perception that they've got a weak core or a weak glute.
Right.
I love the weak glute one because I normally say, if someone says they've got a weak glute, I will say, did you poop yourself on the way in? And
Oh
they'll
no.
go, no, I'm fine. And then I go, then your glutes are all right. They're firing. That's fine.
Oh, that's funny. That's way to bring some humor to the session. That's great.
And if you just manage to laugh without peeing your pants, your pelvic floor's fine too.
Right. You're strong. Is there anything that you would really like to talk about today or share with our audience today?
Oh, crikey. I've been quite on
Been
it, I think.
educational. Yeah, very
Um,
educational so far. I love it.
I think that the one thing I would like to share with people today, particularly, this is not just if you're a trainer, so this is kind of going broader.
Hmm.
The language that we use is so impactful on other people. Be really mindful of the messages your words are giving. So
Yes.
in the fitness industry, we still are surrounded by words like tight, weak, dysfunctional,
Yes.
and they're not helpful. They're not helpful. On many occasions, they're not even true. Um, but if you say that you're tight, what you're actually saying is that you are describing a feeling that somebody has
Mhm.
based on their skill. And if we say tight, it tends to make us feel that there's something wrong with that. So I have people that are runners that will come to me and say, oh, the physio said that I've got tight hamstrings. And I'm like, good. Like, what? I'm like, well, the role of the hamstring is to decelerate you in running. Where would you like to decelerate? Would you like to hit the floor first, or would you like to decelerate before you get close to the floor? And I'll be honest with you, I've actually had conversations with people that have been struggling with their hamstrings. We've done no form of exercise, but we've gone through the language of tightness and
Yeah.
how that's the body's way of saying it's good in a short range. And I might say, well, what we need to do is just work on some skills so you're good in a long range as well as a short range. And they've messaged me the next day and I went running and my hamstrings didn't hurt. What did you do? And I'm like, I didn't do anything. But the conversation changed
The way that they
what
thought about
that
it. Yeah.
feeling meant. And that goes back to what I was saying before with experience and emotion, because if they're perceiving tight to be a threat, the
Yes.
feeling they get reinforces this negative experience. Whereas I've just allowed that to be okay.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we know, which is hilarious, is that there is so much research around the power of our words and how words that can create fear, guess what? Create pain.
Yes,
And
they
so
do.
that's the causation of pain. And yet, constantly, we hear people saying, oh, you've got to fix your posture. And the word fix deems that your posture's not right.
Right.
And that's through poor research that we had that linked a correlation of posture to pain. And I must highlight here the difference between correlation and causation. Now, obviously, sometimes posture can correlate
Hmm.
to pain and fear, but it isn't a causation. So the difference being, if you watch a Nicolas Cage movie, you're
Hmm.
more likely to die of a heart attack.
What?
That is a correlation. It's a correlation, not a causation. Same as if you eat ice cream, you're more likely to die of a shark attack. Again, correlation. Because it's hot weather, more people are eating ice cream, but more people are actually going in the sea.
Yeah.
Therefore, there is the correlation between increased ice cream eating and death by shark.
I'm glad that your examples aren't true.
No, they're correlations. They're correlations, but you can Google it, and there's so much research on it. But the I love all the different correlations there are. They're ridiculous. But if we unravel that and we start to go, no, like even if we're sat at a desk and we're coming down, what's not great is to sit for too long. So
Right.
get up and move, strategies to move. But creating fear is not great. It's
Mm-mm.
not great. So wherever somebody's skill is, we get to help them find more skills. So if someone's here, they go, yeah, my shoulders are really tight. Well, look at that. Does that look tight? That's really good in a long range, actually. It's really good in a long range. So all we might need to do is do some movements into it and then come back out again and get someone throwing a ball and, saying, actually, pop your, little uh, um, alarm on every 20 minutes or 30 minutes and just walk around the room or something like that. Go
Yeah.
and say hello out of every window of your house between your Zoom meetings. So I think for me, that's what I like to share with everybody, because whether you're a parent, whether you're a husband, a wife, whatever, the words that we use impact the people around us.
Oh, they so
And
do.
we can just big people up really easily. I'm sure you do the get rid of the shoulda, and change that for coulda,
Yeah.
rather than I should do that, I could do that, or I get to do that.
Yes. Oh, and so many people are lacking that in their language today. So I'm so happy that you brought that up. So thrilled. What was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
This is a difficult one, isn't it?
It is.
It is such a different group because um oh gosh, who's it now? Winston Churchill.
Hmm.
He said that success is going from one failure to the next
Yep.
without losing enthusiasm.
Yep. That's
And
true.
I love that. I love that. um, so I think there were a couple of things. One was when I'm quite good at sort of saying, yes, I'll do that. I'll give it a go. Why not? Or I think everybody else is saying it and that I'm the only one that stepped forward. And
So
I
you're the
did
yes
this,
woman, and everybody else is like, no.
they all step back. Yeah, yeah. And I remember John Hardy at Fast said, I want somebody to go down to Escape Fitness and deliver a group exercise concept on the core momentum trainer. And so I said, yeah, okay, I can do that. And I was nervous and I worked so hard to prepare the classes that I was going to do and the education side of it. And it was, it was a big deal and it was a new step for me. We're going back good 15 years on this.
Yeah.
And I went down and anyway, let's just say there was a lady there that did not like me.
Oh no.
And you can tell, obviously, no, we're not silly. So I knew that the rapport, and I was trying harder to sort of make it clearer, um, and she had some preconceived ideas of solutions to problems that didn't actually exist.
I see. So she
And
wants to
then,
quit you.
yeah, so she was not ready to let go. And that's the thing as well, is that if we do any sort of technique or method, we can get emotionally attached to it. And
Right.
then if somebody's saying, well, we don't need to use that, then that can lead us with that fear state. And that's another reason why I love research, because if you allow research to lead and drive you to the techniques that you're using, then if the next day you learn to ask a better question and it goes, you know what, actually stroking guinea pigs is not the best thing to run faster, you go, okay, bye guinea pig. But you don't go, no, but I want my guinea pig because it worked on my friend. um, so what happened was I left, and we then all got onto a group call, and she did not hold back. Oh
Oh.
no, she went for the jugular. And uh, it was quite sort of and I afterwards got so upset.
Yeah.
And but I spoke with John afterwards, and he just reassured me that everything that I did, I did to the best of my ability. And she was emotionally attached to something, and so therefore passionately throwing it back at me.
Right.
And one of the things that she was saying was that the class was particularly tough because you have this little plastic box with handles, and it's got these pellets inside that are lubricated that spin round, and you shake it with the movements that you're doing. And she said, but it's very, very tough. And I remember John went, well, if it's tough, you can just stop shaking it. And it was like one of those drop the
Confidence
mic
moment.
moments.
Yeah.
So I think what it taught me though was actually to be confident in myself, because the real problem was is that I didn't trust myself, and I thought she must know more than I do, and that was what created the snowball on myself. And it's okay that she wasn't ready to hear the information that I was saying, but
Right.
it doesn't mean that I need to beat myself up over it.
It's
And I'm sure that we all have moments of imposter syndrome, where we doubt what we're doing. And I do think that if we practice, if we prep, if we do the research ourselves rather than trusting other gurus, then it's easier to go, you know what? I did this, that worked well.
yeah.
I did that, that didn't work so well. But I don't need to beat myself up for it, because I did the best that I could in that situation, in that scenario.
Yeah. And
So I learned I have an ego.
you're learning from the experiences that you're creating. So it's not just mimicking or copying somebody else. You're learning from what you're doing, and that's great.
And if you can have that growth mindset where you say, these are the things that were good, that worked well. It's the same as sport. When I got my racket into this position, I was able to get the shot.
Yes.
When I got the racket into that position, it made it challenging, rather than saying, I'm rubbish, you should never go out there and do that again, or I'm amazing. Did you see how good that was? So
Yeah.
equally, and so I will say there was one other thing that I did, which was a bit of a disaster, which was amazing. I signed up for a white collar boxing.
Uh-huh.
And my trouble was I was continually going away to present when I was supposed to be doing the training. So I found this one company that were quite happy for me just to do 8 weeks of training, but only actually turn up to six of them.
Oh,
So
wow.
so I only turned up for six of them. In fairness, when I was away, I did go and do some other boxing lessons.
Yeah.
But we were all first time boxers, and I was in the ring with this girl, and I hit her, which that is the name of the game, and
Yeah.
she cried, and it was awful for both of us. But at that point, they said, you can't fight anyone who's new. because you're fighting with the aggression of actually fighting, which normally doesn't kick in until second or third time. So
Oh.
I learnt then never give it away because on they got me a new opponent that had been boxing for a year, that had had four unbeaten fights, and they said, yes, you are the underdog, and they were right. She was amazing, she was brilliant,
Right.
and it was like some horrendous scene from Rocky. And it was the moment that I glanced up and saw my husband's face as my blood splattered
Oh,
across the floor, and I broke my nose. Well, she broke my nose, and his face was just like, oh, so I made it through the 3 rounds. Clearly, I lost. But oh my goodness, it was a crazy, wonderful experience.
yeah,
And
because I think if they wouldn't have put you in that situation or you wouldn't have been able to experience that situation, you wouldn't know exactly how well you were. You could have just blown everybody out of the water and beat that chick's butt. You
I
didn't,
think
but you could have, and it could have been your opportunity to excel and
I think
succeed.
if I ever do it again, I will make sure that I'm slightly on a bit more of an even keel. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
but it was an incredible experience.
I bet. I mean, she did have 4 years on you, so
My husband said, please don't do that again.
yeah, I don't blame him.
But I'm tempted. I'm tempted. I quite like the idea of doing it again.
Yeah. I would be tempted too, just because I never have, but that's another story.
Yeah, I think I want to like get really good at boxing first.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, I'm curious, how would your parents describe what you do? Do they even know what you do?
They do know what I do, and um, how would they describe it? They used to think that I was this Group X person that just got up and shouted at people, which is not what I do, nor have I ever done that. I might have shouted at people a little bit or called them a slug, um, in jest. Um, but no, I think they're quite good at saying that Joe helps to train personal trainers, and she has clients herself. They will probably say she does lots of things in the park. So they've got quite a good idea of it, I think. Yes.
Oh, that's great. What's an insult you've received, but that you've been proud of?
Okay. Well, I have thought about this a lot, and it reminded me of the time where I covered a group exercise class, and this was probably going back 20 years, and it was an early morning one. And a woman came up to me afterwards and she said, I can't handle your classes, not in the morning. You're just too happy.
Oh,
And I thought, well, if you're going to get insulted with being happy and enthusiastic, I'll take that. And
absolutely.
yeah, and I couldn't change it for her. So I said, maybe come to my later classes when you've woken up a bit.
Yes. I think that I would be the complete opposite. I would prefer you being upbeat and cheery and happy because if I woke up grumpy, usually that snaps me out of it. Like,
It's funny though, because some people, when they're grumpy, they want to go in with that grump. And that's part of what we teach on motor skill. And I remember a client that I had once. He was lovely. And I believe he might have been Saudi royalty. Just because the house I turned up and he had everybody on sort of like, right, like
yeah.
letting me in past the Rolls Royce and all of this stuff. And this was the first time I'd met him. Anyway, after training him for a while, he was so sweet. He used to have water for me and little sandwiches and things. And this one day, he was totally out of character, and he just sort of
Oh
and
no.
ushered me into the lounge. He said, I'm not going outside today, like this. And so I met him in his mood. And I said, right, start off with it. And I start throwing this bag at him. And And then I gave him the exercises that I knew he loved, but I was really just very quert, I don't think that's even a word. Precise maybe with my directions. Reach
Yes.
that there, do this here, done.
Firm.
Uh, Firm, yes. And then started to bring some other challenges in. Then I could see his mood lifting and changing. And I said, right, now we're going outside. So I took him outside and then I got him playing and he was running to different cones and all of this. And then the brilliant thing was at the end, I gave him this challenge and then he fell to his knees and then he just looked up at me and went, I don't know what sort of voodoo you just did on me. He said, but I now feel like I have to go and apologize to my wife.
Oh,
He
as you
said, I,
should, buddy.
yeah. And but he said, I feel fabulous. And I was in such a grouch. And I just thought that was so cool because
Yes.
it took him on that journey. And so what I purposely did was meet him in his grizzle moment.
Yeah. You know, I've had people use that on me before, and it does kind of just trick you. It makes you go, "Oh my gosh, is that actually what I'm doing back to this person?" Because when you're grumpy, you really don't think about it. You just react and you act. And so
Yep.
I think that's a great example of demonstrating how to snap somebody out of a grumpy mood.
Yeah, let's go there. I'm angry too.
Yeah. What does your morning routine look like? Do you have a morning routine since we're talking to grumpy morning people?
I do have a morning routine, and my routine is that I'm very lucky. My husband will go and get me a coffee.
Mhm.
He's so sweet. He'll go and get me a coffee, and my little schnoodle, who's normally tucked up in bed with me, will run
Oh,
downstairs, and then Duncan will bring me my coffee, and we'll have a little chat, and Lola will come back on my lap. So I love that and I cherish those moments. And it is, I will often say actually when I go to bed, oh, I'm really excited about tomorrow for my coffee.
that's so adorable. My goodness, my husband better start taking notes from this one.
I do every now and again surprise him and go and get the coffee, but
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
nice to reverse it every now and then. I can see that.
And then I go and I always teach a class in the morning that I deliver live on TikTok and for a closed group. And that's really lovely. So we do that live every morning, and then I'll do my clients and before, yes, back on the end of the day.
Oh, you must have some quick days then, because it's like back to back coffee, get right into it. All right. And then clients all day.
And I always do a lunchtime routine, which is I'll go for a run, and that's my form of meditation.
Yeah.
Sometimes my husband and I will run together because he works from home as well, or I'll go myself, and it really is that time where I'm not thinking about anybody else's routine, what they need to do. And I just sort of it is like a meditation because I tend to go the same route. I will put other training in to help me
Yeah.
improve my motor skills, but that's my mental health moment. I think, it's my form of relaxation. Weird, I know, but
No, that's really good and that's very healthy. Everybody needs that, and not everybody gets that break throughout their day. So I think it's smart, and it's just a way for you to take care of you since
yeah,
you're taking care of everybody else all day. You
there
deserve
are
that.
there are times I mean I can, I do have my moody moments. There have been
That's what I
times
mean.
where my husband and I have been running and he starts to run, uh I was going to say next to me or faster than me, but if he goes in front of me, I don't like it. And on some days I can handle it, but if I am on a grumpy day, I will end up going, well, if you want to go, you just go. And I realized, what is that? Why am I doing that? And then I realized it is because so much of my time is about working out what somebody else needs. to
Yeah.
help them. And I just want to be able to do that and not be thinking, I need to run faster or I need to do this. And I want that to be that space. It's not always like that, but now we have we have an understanding and we've communicated. But we were training for a marathon and we were running around this lake, and I would always run just that little bit in front because I was Miss Motivator. And he just started to move forward. And then as I move forward, I'd start to pick up the pace and then move forward. And then he picked it up. And this kept happening until we are sprinting like nobody's business around this lake until I finally went, "What are you trying to do to me?" And he said, "I just wanted to run in front for once." And I was like, "Well, you could have just asked, and then I would be fine instead of this sprinting business." But it was that time where we were like, oh, sometimes we need to use our words and
Yeah.
communicate here.
Because it's just that natural competition kicking in too,
Yep.
for him especially. Like he just wants to run up front. That's all he's thinking of. But you're
Yeah.
like, oh, he must want it to take it up a notch. And so I'm going to follow along.
Yeah. I just thought that was my role to be there in
Uh,
front there.
oh, that's so funny.
Hmm.
Is there someone who is inspirational to you that really inspired you to get started with your career journey?
I think this is a tough question because there's so many people that inspire you.
Yeah.
And I mean, now the people that around me that inspire me, my daughter inspires me loads, but obviously she wasn't around when I got into this industry. So my dad was always really good at saying, if you want something, set your mind on it and work hard
Oh,
to do that. So he was a big inspiration. Also, the gym that I got my first job in, and Sarah Dove, and I was working on reception, and she was the one that said, you should teach classes. You can earn more money. She said, I think you've got the right personality for it. And when I
good.
did, she said, that's great because you've got 8 classes starting next week.
So she really, really tricked you into
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She just needed cover, basically.
it. Oh, well, then it's probably a good time for me to ask, at that time, what did health and wellness mean to you, and how did that change? What does it mean to you now?
That's a great question. It's changed so much. Initially, when I got into the fitness industry, I mean, if I look back to when I was at college, a lot of people would have laughed, saying, "Joe, in the fitness industry," I used to hide under the bed, go, "No, I'm not going to go." I used to love things like horse riding and that type of sport, or running myself. I wasn't really, into all different sports, but I think. I, like many people of my age, I'm 52, we went through step and those things in the gym. My brother had a serious car accident, so he was introduced to the gym to get strong. And so we used to go to the gym together, and that was nice. But then I think as group exercise came in, I found like that was fun, and you could get everyone together. I went through the Les Mills programs, and again, that really suited my personality because you could really showcase it and have a lot of fun. But I started to realize when I had my injury how I was working, everything was in sagittal plane. So if I looked at everything I was doing, I was running straight, I was squatting straight, I was deadlifting straight, I was cycling straight. Nothing was about sport of rotation. Nothing was about being rapid.
Ironic.
So I thought, right, that's what needs to change. And so I started to move in a lot more 3 dimensions, but I also fell down the rabbit hole of going, now everything needs to be in 3 dimensions, and a little bit like a sledgehammer of just trying to do everything in 3D. Whereas now I'm looking for what is the thing that I want to get good at, what does that look like when I break down the biomechanics? Can I match exercises to get me better at those motor skills? And with my clients, I'm always thinking, right, so what is it you want to do? You want to be able to get to the bus without being out of breath. Brilliant. That looks like locomotion. That doesn't look like a squat or a lunge, which will actually teach you to be lower for longer and slow your running down.
Yeah.
So now I get to think about what is the end goal? What's the performance goal? And how can we use exercise and movement to get us towards it rather than thinking these are the 32 exercises you need to do.
Yeah.
So I think that for me is a big difference. I've always wanted to make movement exciting, fun, and because I believe that that's what brings people back, that
Right.
feeling.
I think you're right on that for sure. People always like to enjoy themselves and feel good about what they're doing. And so if you make them feel that way, oh yeah, they're coming back.
Exactly. I've got one client who she just wanted to do more gardening. So she was told that she had high cholesterol. But that, as I said, that's just a hurdle. Like no one goes, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to go training today because I've got high cholesterol. Like, no, and that's going to be on a day where you're not feeling it, not going.
Right.
Whereas what I discovered is that she absolutely loves her allotment. And what she struggled with was being on her knees or being in a bent over position for long enough. So to her, feeling strong was that ability to be able to get low, to be able to garden for longer. And so I started to think, right, well, how does it look? How does she get these weeds out of her garden? How does she plant the potatoes? And then we started to match the exercises around those skills. And that was really cool because she just lit up.
Yeah. I love that. I love the way that you work with your clients, and I'm gonna have to remember you as I get older and I stop being moving as well. That's what I meant to say.
And just keep thinking of things that you want to do that you enjoy. It's like my mum who said she couldn't squat, and
Yeah.
it didn't help that her physio said, oh, don't squat because she'd had knee operation. So I went to see her, and she sat down to get her prosecco, and then I moved her prosecco to another area of the table, so she gets up and then she sits down, and then I move it into the different room and I walk in there, and then I move to another place and she sits and then she stands again, and then afterwards I said, do you know how many times you squatted for me? And she's, I can't believe it. I can't believe that but that was changing again the purpose. And
Right.
and that's why words are really important, because I think what the physio meant was don't go and do loaded squats, but he didn't mean don't go to the toilet. So she
Right.
squatted. He didn't mean don't sit on a chair and get up and out of a chair again. And so if we can connect to people in ways that are beneficial, then I think that's really good.
That's great. Great way to think of it. So, are there any health or awareness or wellness resources that you really love that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Oof. Um, I go woof because there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much misinformation out there. And certainly for my trainers, I want them to go to read the research studies themselves. So I was asked the other day about some books, and I don't really recommend books, not to my trainers, because they're normally written by someone who has an opinion, or by the
Yeah,
time the book's been actually published, then a lot of the questions around the research has already changed.
that makes sense.
But obviously, I recommend that if anybody's looking within the fitness industry, come and do motor skill application with me, because you will get the tools to be able to do that yourself. So
Yes.
yes. So PubMed is a great source. It's great that there's a few websites that I cannot mention that you can get hold of studies for free.
Just reach out to Joanne and she'll
Yes.
share everything that you need. Just reach out to her. Would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
Um, I think that people can put themselves into boxes, and so I
Mhm.
try not to do that. Uh, Most people would probably describe me as an extrovert, but I could also go to a party and feel like really nervous.
Yeah.
And I think introverted people can also feel really outgoing when they're amongst people that they trust and know
Mm.
really, really well. And
Exciting.
again, with that whole experience and how we take an action to things, if you are somebody that struggles and you feel that you are an introvert, then putting yourself into safe environments where you can meet and talk to new people is a good thing to do. And you can shush me up at any time because probably extrovert.
No, I would agree with you there for sure. Unfortunately, I think this is really all the time that we have for today. So why don't we share with our listeners where they can find you online, of course.
Okay, well, we were sort of almost talking about this before we came on. One place you can find me, which is not potentially the most professional place, but is TikTok. I went viral on TikTok for doing an exercise class in the back of my garden during COVID, and my neighbour leant out of the window and said, "Joe, can you stop screaming? You're screaming." And I actually had COVID at the time. So I responded with, "I'm hardly screaming. I can't even talk. I've got COVID." And she said, "You've got COVID and you're in the garden. That means I can't go in the garden now." It's very funny. And then she swore at me. But so you can get me on TikTok or I'm on Instagram. And on Instagram, I'm Joanne Groves. Excuse me. And the O of Groves is a zero. Um, and on the Faster Health and Fitness website as well.
Perfect. And we're going to share all of these resources today too in the comments section of the video. So everybody joining us today and listening, it will be there, I promise. You'll just have to look in the comments section. Um, but I do just want to thank you so much, Joanne, for joining me today. It is always so much fun to connect with you and talk to you. I love how animated you are, and I love how you explain everything just so clearly and concisely. It's easy to understand when it comes from your mouth. So thank
Oh,
you so
thank,
much for being here.
thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was genuinely my pleasure. And I hope we can do a follow-up episode in the future. At least,
I,
six months from now, maybe a year. Does that work for you?
I would love that. I would love that anytime. I'm always up for chatting. And thank you, Sabrina. You're a great host.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We definitely hope to see you again in the future. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more content like this. I'll share with you all sorts of different tips and tricks in business and the different positions out there. So thank you everybody again for joining, and thank you again, Joanne, for being here. Bye, everybody.